Here we are, bottom of the content barrel already. I guess you guys want to talk about beanbags? Let's, uh, let's talk about beanbags. Here we go. The 1999 Burger King Big Kids Meal Pokemon the Movie Mewtwo Strikes Back tie-in subset beanbags. Look at this Meowth. It looks like shit, just like all of them do. And understand, yeah, they don't look that bad. These are free toys that came with kids' meals, but remember how good and high quality the rest of this toy set was for this Burger King Big Kids Meal. The keychains, the rev tops, the launchers, the squirters. Imagine having all of those cool toys available, but you open up your bag and you get this oddish. Just this oddish. I mean, there's nothing terribly wrong about it. It is just a bag full of beans with some felt leaves stuck in the top of it. It looks like an oddish, which is not something you can say for all of these. The Meowth is a bit rough. Its whiskers kind of flopping all over the place, and the Poliwhirl isn't very detailed outside of the fact that it's just a bag of beans with some arms sticking off of it. And I guess this was literally like bottom of the barrel design whenever they were coming up with all of these toys, because you would think you would pick Pokemon that lend themselves to beanbags, but you also had those rev tops where they needed to use the roundest Pokemon possible, so it's not like you could just fill this section full of Venonats and Jigglypuffs and Tangalas because they had already been used. And some of your other simpler, rounder Pokemon like Poliwag were already used in Squirters. Now, Snorlax is one that you would think would lend itself very well to a beanbag, but I guess on this small a scale, it is hard to get the shape of its head correct. You would just have to add in a lot more stitching, and so it kind of just looks like this. I will admit, I do really like this old school chonky Pikachu. This is the one that would talk, and you see me in this video, I was pressing on its stomach to see if the battery was still alive in there to help it talk, but it was sadly dead. I even opened this little pouch on the back to see if I could get in there to the battery and change it, but this is just like a weird pocket. You would really have to put in some work to actually get in there and change the battery, and I don't care enough about these beanbags to actually do that, so down the Pikachu goes. Next up, let's look at Butterfree, who unfortunately looks like it's just fresh out of a rescue from a Pokemon version of a trap house. This is just not great design, especially since its little arms are just printed onto the fabric. They're not even their own separate little thing. The eyes, like everything about it, this is just like a two-piece beanbag. You stuck some wings on there and then just printed everything else on. Stuck some strings poking out of its head to kind of look like antennas, but they look real bad. Speaking of, this Golbat may have actually been rescued from the trash since it has so much staining and schmutz on it. It doesn't look great, but I still think they kind of nailed the design on it. Golbat is one of these Pokemon you can just make it a jelly bean full of fluff and then stick some fangs on it, and it kind of works. And of course, I've saved the best for last, which is Gyarados. It's got some nice printing on the fabric. Its fins are cut out to look kind of cool, but this face right here, is that the face of a Gyarados? What's supposed to be one of the most intimidating Pokemon in Gen 1? Even the side profile, look how derpy this thing is. Clearly, simple designs lend themselves more to small toys, so why would you pick Gyarados for a tiny plush and then approve it when it comes out looking like this? You could have easily just done Magikarp instead, and it would look better. Magikarp is supposed to look stupid. All in all, as a set, they're not as bad as I make them out to be, but I had avoided talking about the beanbags because when I showcase Pokemon product, I like to talk about cool stuff. Now, if you want to talk about cool beanbags from 1999, then we need to talk about the KFC ones. These did not come in kids' meals. You had to buy these separately at a KFC, but they are much higher quality. If you just look at this Dratini here, thankfully these bags are fully transparent on the back, so I don't actually have to take any of these beanbags out. But this Dratini, it's actually stuffed with stuffing in the front and in its head, and then the tail has the heavier beanbags in it, so that if you're going to place it on a shelf, it actually sits upright. And due to the stitching, you actually have some really nice contrast between the two colors on the Dratini, and the facial features it has in the fins and the snout. They're minimal, but they stand out much more than those cheap Burger King ones. You can tell that these were actually made by a company that knew what they were doing and were putting the thought into it. This was actually Ty, the company that produces Beanie Babies, which were also huge at the time. This next one is Seal. And again, it's just a nice looking seal. It is a Pokemon design with very minimal details in it, but that lends itself very well to making a small beanbag toy. Like the Dratini, its eyes are that hard plastic. On the seal, its nose is that hard plastic as well. It's weighted with beanbags in the front so that the plush tail is always going to stick up in the air. The stitching also helps with that. And you see these little details in the, what do you call them, flippers in the fins of the seal, where you just get that little bit of edging just to show detail in those flippers, as well as a little tongue sticking out. And this Zubat, I think the Zubat's probably the best looking one out of them because it is such a simple design. It has that Beanie Baby kind of like fuzzy, I don't even know what material you would call it, all the way around, and then the dark purple on the wings pops really nicely against that blue, especially when you also have the black and the white of the mouth and teeth. Like Beanie Babies, you also get this little tag that says KFC Special Edition on the outside, but then it's also got a little bit of information about the Zubat. It's got a Pokedex entry on the tag there, which is really nice. It's a nice touch for this type of product. Although it wasn't free with the kids' meal like the Burger King ones were, these were still being purchased at a fast food restaurant. I'm trying to fix Zubat's little leg. It's kicking up in the air there, but I kind of like it doing its kicks in the bag. Now let's set most of that praise aside and look at this Vulpix, which does not look a whole lot like a Vulpix. It just looks like a Beanie Baby knockoff of a Vulpix, which, I mean, in a way, it kind of is. This is still official Pokemon merchandise here, but the eyes are just wrong. The snout is wrong. All the positioning for this Vulpix, I think it would have been so much nicer if they would have actually just stuffed the 6 tails, as well as the floof on its head, and then just gone with those standard monocolored hard plastic eyes. Just do dark brown, hard plastic eyes. Don't try to put too much detail in it. That's where this one falls apart the most, is in the eyes. You look at that and immediately it's looking very much off-brand. This looks more like a flea market Vulpix. But overall, these are another cool piece of Pokemon merchandise history from Pokemania, so I did want to compare and contrast with those Burger King ones just for the record. Well, it turns out at the bottom of that content barrel was another barrel, so stay tuned for plenty more Pokemon TCG vintage merchandise, all kinds of bullshit content coming to this channel. If you like it, then push that like button, subscribe and comment and do all the YouTube stuff. That helps out a lot. So I'll see you next video. Bye.